Welcome to the automated YouTube channel, 6 o'clock a.m. here in Shenzhen. Not so sunny right now, but it's gonna get there. Well, welcome back again to our broadcast, and great to have you here as well. We're gonna check the stream very quickly just to see how everyone is doing, to see whether we've got it's healthy and everything, and I think we're right there as we're checking. Thank you to all the subscribers. We're now at 192. It's pretty amazing. I think we were at 189 or 190 yesterday. So thank you again for 192. We're getting up there. Let's hit 200 by end of next week. Let's try to aim for that as well. And if you'd like the full email brief, always remember to go to theautomate.co/subscribe. That's kind of where you can get everything into your email inbox. Everything that we actually cover on the show here, you can get it free in your email inbox, and that way you get to click and keep track of what we're doing. Okay, all right, let's just go into the stream, make sure that we're all good here. Fantastic. I think we're good, so I'm just going to leave a quick comment. And welcome everybody on the live stream as well. And absolutely fantastic. We've got a great show. We've got a lot of news to cover, a lot of pretty exciting stuff. And yeah, let's just jump into it. Okay, all right. Welcome. We're going to do our first show, our first segment here. Today it's, we're going to focus on, sorry about that. I'm going to focus on, there, missing something here. We're going to focus on a big news of the day on hardware devices. Hardware devices. So cue screenshot A. Got the screenshots all mixed up today. So the big thing here, Plod just look, there's been a lot of kind of notebook taking apps and hardware devices. Plod is one of them. I think Pocket is another one I looked at as well. And Plod, I think, is by far the most popular one. So Plod just released an AirPod looking device, an AI note-taking device, but it looks like AirPods, and essentially it is how much money is it? I think it's, I forgot exactly how much it is, but what I found interesting was that it houses an active eSIM card inside the AirPods, and that way you can talk to your AI agents remotely with zero phone or communication connection required, which is pretty interesting. Then after your conversation wraps, the AI puts all the notes in Google Notes, Notion, whatever it may be, in Slack. And it has 12mm drivers, active noise cancellation, up to 6 hours of live recording. You get a total of 25 hours with the case, and it is, here we go, 300 free transcription minutes every month, pay tiers at $8.33 a month, with pre-orders priced at $249 shipping costs. Pretty interesting. Yeah, pretty interesting there. Hello, Hunaid. Hello, Hunaid. Oh, I'm not by myself. Fantastic to have you on the show and live stream. And thank you for commenting on the chat over there. So let's go back to Plod. I think it's pretty interesting on this particular device. I haven't used, again, the physical kind of note-taking. I don't have my phone next to me, but then it's basically a physical note-taking app. It's a transcription device, and you put it on the back of your phone, and it transcribes your notes and transcribes your conversations, both your phone conversations and your meeting notes, and then it uploads it into the cloud. I haven't used it. I've seen some people use it, but it would be interesting to hear really kind of power users what you really like about it. I've kind of been on the fence of either purchasing or not. I don't think I've seen that many people use it. So it's not a big purchase. So if you have one of those, do comment on the video. I'd love to kind of hear your experience and whether you like it or not. So that's pretty interesting in terms of Plod or in terms of a hardware device. And what I find interesting again is the eSIM in your AirPods, because then it's a direct connection anyway. All right, I'm doing well, Hunaid. It's nice to hear from you. Yeah, I'm doing well and fantastic to hear. I believe Hunaid is somewhere in Texas. He's a hope he doesn't mind disclosing, but we're good high school friends, so good to get some company at 6 a.m. in the morning, along with my cup of coffee, of course, Hunaid. Okay, so let's talk into right. So we went to the fact that Plod actually has a $100 million annual run rate. And then they're actively fighting YC Back Pocket, but there's also kind of Anchor is another one as well, another hardware device, really good manufacturer, based here in Shenzhen actually, and really good devices. Prices are reasonable, but just very high quality. Meanwhile, actually, another hardware device is really Hugging Face. So Hugging Face, the software, right? The software, the open source platform that was actually hacked by OpenAI is selling you a $399 price tagged hardware device. And it's called MicroDuck, the duck-shaped robot. And CEO Clem Delange framed it as a fully open source robot you can use, you can train using reinforcement learning, slated to ship right before Christmas. And their photos and videos on social media. It quacks like a duck. Sorry, it doesn't quack. It waddles and crouches like a duck. It's 25 centimeters tall. It picks up objects weighing up to 800 grams using its beak. And I mean, it looks pretty cute. I think it looks a little bit like Wall-E, I think, is from Pixar. I think is really the best comparison over here. So yeah, there's on the email that you receive in your email inbox, you'll see some videos. You can click on it as well. It will retail at let's see, it will retail at, I believe, $399. I think I probably just said it as well. It will retail at $399 price tag. And so Hugging Face kind of bought this technology. They bought a startup called Pollen Robotics back in April 2025, and to make affordable open source AI software. And Pollen Robotics had actually sold hardware devices anyway, $499 Richie Mini and a $399 Richie Mini Lite. And what are the specs? So these ducks will have onboard camera, LiDAR sensors, and 2 IMUs to read its environment. And it has basically the behaviors can be fully trained in simulation before hitting the physical hardware, backed by complex SDK and reinforcement learning training stack on GitHub. Okay, so if you plan on getting one, it will be interesting to kind of hear your feedback and whether you would like to get this. If you're into hardware, it would be interesting to kind of hear why you would be getting this, and if you're not getting this, why you wouldn't be getting this. And we find that physical AI is a pretty interesting segment. I was just at a physical AI summit here in Shenzhen yesterday, and we're actually going to post a video of that, of me covering the event, probably sometime next week. Probably it would be Monday or Tuesday next week. But physical AI is really, is it the next step? I think I hesitate the next step because it was always here anyway. And physical AI is really a great kind of combination of what makes Shenzhen great, right? So you've got AI, and then you've got the supply chain. On the other hand, the supply chain is here, motors, sensors, physical parts. And it's that combination that makes it kind of interesting here in Shenzhen. Is physical AI, I think, the best everywhere, best poised to develop? No. Is it really kind of the next step of what AI is going to be? Again, I hesitate that it's the next step, but I definitely think it's interesting because it just makes AI real. I think people that enjoy AI, like our regional subscribers like Hunaid, we're nerding into AI, right? We're really fast into it. We're happy to experiment. We're happy to try different things. I think physical AI is really that next step for, I won't say normies, but people that are not normally into experiment with SaaS software to actually kind of deal with it. So in that sense, I guess it's the evolution in the sense that it opens up a new kind of segment of people looking to deal with AI. I think one thing I would say that physical AI is important is I want to separate out the concept that everything needs to be physical AI. There was one speaker yesterday actually in the discussion about saying that, do you need a humanoid, right? Do you need a humanoid for your home, right? If let's say, for example, you want to cook a meal, right? You want to cook a meal, you probably want a few robots that are just very good at very specific things, right? You want a robot that's very good at, let's say, for example, chopping carrots, kind of chopping, let's just say. Then you want someone that's probably good at slicing, and you want a robot that puts it all together and then maybe stir fries it, right? And so they're very specialized skill sets, and that's probably what you want your robots to be good at right now. You don't need a John humanoid, philosopher / Aristotle, a Unitree Kung Fu fighting robot. You probably want a very specialized thing. And he was making the case that that's kind of why the robot, vacuums are doing so well, because it just does one thing. So there's this push of physical AI into like doing more humanoids and that type of thing. But really, do we really, really need that? I think there was another case at the conference yesterday that I'll mention briefly here, but I'll talk again a little bit after the video comes out, about how these robot vacuums, even though you have these robot vacuums, it doesn't mean that you don't vacuum anymore, right? Oh no, you turn it. Thank you. You still have to vacuum, right? So just because you have robots doesn't mean that you don't do the things that you were going to do or you were going to plan to do. It's not like the task entirely goes away. So I think the case was that even though you do have robots, it doesn't completely still replace humans. And am I saying it's still a toy? Yeah. Like I said, I think it will kind of expand the pie of AI so that it kind of gives more people more opportunities to play with AI, interact with AI. But is it really going to take everything over? There are certain specializations where AI would be better, robots would be better. Vacuum, very specific tasks, medical, right? I think there are certain use cases where that might be more effective, right? Certain surgical devices or surgical procedures. But a general humanoid, that looks fancy, that's great for the cameras. That's probably not needed right of this moment. Okay, all right, let's move on to around the AI block then. Okay, all right, around the AI block, I'm just going to check the comments. Quite rich on comments today, so this is absolutely fantastic. This is what I wanted. I wanted more interaction, right? So I can talk to you and talk to you and interact. So Hune was saying, I haven't had any experience with robots, but I do use Granola, which is an app on my phone. I'm a computer very good at, summaries, so it's a Plod competitor, I suppose. Robots are better than humans. AI medical could enhance throughput for radiology. And that was actually one of the discussions you made yesterday on really kind of where would this kind of take off, right? The medical piece, is it is the medical use case going to take off? Is it industrial? I think the three categories were service, medical, and industrial. Like what use case in physical AI or robotics is really going to take off first? And I don't think there was a conclusion, but based off of my experience and view, it seems like kind of the industrial and medical is really where there's movement. service when it comes to like humanoids and stuff. You know, you see the vacuum cleaners, you see some service robots like giving you like, you know, wait staff instead of wait staff. You see those, but I think it's just performative robotics, if you will. But I definitely see, I think, on the back end automation software in terms of manufacturing and probably on the medical device. There we go. AI is already being used in a hospital for radiology. I think that's really where there's actually more adoption. I do have a question. Hunaid, in your experience, AI used for radiology, why is that? Is it just much more accurate? Why is that? I'd love to kind of hear your comments there. And as we move on to the next section and we address that, but I'd love to kind of hear your comments there. Okay, all right, let's go around the AI block very quickly as Hunaid types that. But really, thank you for that. I love the interaction. You know, it's pretty lonely at 6 a.m. by myself, so it's nice to get some kind of feedback and thoughts. Okay, all right, so a couple of news I want to cover today around the AI block. First, we had yes, here are the other times, TechCrunch article. Here are the other times AI has gone rogue. So remember, we talked about this a couple days ago. You know, Hugging Face was hacked by OpenAI. We talked about this many times, in fact. And so this article talked about how many other times AI has been hacked before. Now, according to a satirical website called Felony Bench, there's been 17 incidents in a total of hacking, and they recapped all these incidents chronologically. Anthropic has the most, OpenAI has tied for being the most. And I think, looking at the screenshot here, my eyes are not nearly as good as it used to be, and I think it's at 6. Meta after that, Google and Moonshot. So it's I must say it's a little more common than before, a little more common than what OpenAI experienced, but it's, you know, it's probably OpenAI is suffering, whereas it happens to everybody else as well. Here I want to kind of pause here. OpenAI's disclosure piqued the curiosity, and Anthropic wondered, could this have happened to us as well? So the answer was yes. So the Frontier AI lab, Anthropic, discovered that its own models breached 3 different and still unnamed companies, with the early incident dating back to April, more than 3 months before the company discovered it. Anthropic partially blamed Irregular, a startup that runs AI cyber evaluations. OpenAI also found out that Hugging Face wasn't the only victim, and Meta AI. So it goes in. This article goes into actually the specific of kind of other hacks. And I do remember the Claude agent in the Australian case. We covered this about 2 weeks ago, where it helped an Australian man kick out other reservations in the gym, right? And that way it can prioritize its own reservation and get a gym reservation. I thought that was pretty entertaining. I guess it is a bit of a hack, you know. It is pretty interesting there. So yeah, I think it's not as much as I thought it would be, right? When I looked in the article, what was it? We talked about 13, 14 in total of, you know, hacks. It's not as many as I thought. So to some degree, you could say that the safety measures that the safety teams that these companies have are fairly good. But having said that, I mean, just one is one rogue AI could be doing, again, we talked about these unintended consequences. And I think the most important thing, so on a high level, it's interesting, right? On a high level, it's not as many as I thought. Okay, maybe the safety teams, you've got these big narratives, oh, OpenAI is doing this and that type of thing. Yes, it's a bit scary, but on the grand scheme of things, it's probably maybe not that many kind of instances. On the other hand, as an individual, as we said before, always protect yourself, right? Always protect yourself about how you're interacting online, your passwords that are online, your passwords that are not online. And because, you know, it could be Claude grabbing your password and running down your tokens, right? Because it needs to be able to do some work, and its owner slash token provider, normal token providers not providing tokens, and so therefore it takes your tokens. So you just have to protect yourself from an individual basis. And I think that's really kind of the best way to think about these things. I think there should be more governance at the end of the day about this, but until we get there, we just have to protect ourselves first as we figure out this together, collectively, really, in how we can interact with the AI world. Okay, let's pause here as well. Let's see Humanoid. Oh, Humanoid's really active. Thanks, Humanoid. You're our first like big commenter, which is absolutely fantastic. It's nice to be able to kind of see what's going on and just interact. So Humanoid, I think my question was, you know, how do hospitals actually interact with AI? And the radio is because it helps the throughput. Okay, they can read more cases. AI and robotics can read more cases faster and have at least a preliminary read before the radiologist reviews it. Can you imagine if a hacking occurs with biotech? That's pretty scary. So yeah, taking a step back, I think it's interesting. Thank you for the comment. AI is used for reading more, consuming more, and processing more, right? Which is absolutely the use case you would think, right? Which is more effective for AI. I think I do think the ethical kind of parts on. Oh, that's my son making an appearance. Hello, son. You want to say hi?
Where's the live stream?
It's going. The live stream's going. This is the live stream. You want to say hello to all the viewers? We have a commenter as well, Mr. Gurji. Yeah. Oh, you can't see it. He's on the side. Yeah. But yes. Okay, let me finish. Say bye. He's gonna go back to bed. But yeah, I think the ethical part is pretty interesting. You know, right now, you know, one probably doesn't hear too much about it because, you know, like I said before, right? Let's say broadly, let's put kind of physical A into 3 categories: service, industrial, medical. Industrial, look, let's just say they're manufacturing cars in the back end, don't really see what's going on there. Medical stuff, again, it's on the back end, it's not front and center, B2C, it's not messy. And so if kind of hacks happen there, I don't think, you know, it's not as obvious. But having said that, so it's not as obvious and not as in your face. I don't know if it'll have a TechCrunch article or Wall Street Journal, whatever it may be the case, but it will have kind of a wider kind of ethical ramification. Let's say, for example, someone hacked into this radiology physical AI robot and I don't know, gives a wrong diagnosis, right? Or erases records. I actually heard about this case. This Korean policeman that actually erased like 100 missing persons cases, and it was just out of the database. So imagine something like that. You know, it's just even mistakenly, right? Just messes with their diagnosis and misdiagnoses patients. That has a wider ramification, a more direct consequence, I think, than kind of Hugging Face being breached. So even though the Hugging Face stuff gets all the headlines, I think it's a good point who made. I think the ethical boundaries and the ramifications and the consequences of kind of real world AI when it comes to medical and service, not service, but infrastructure being hacked, I think that's a lot more important. And I think that's something that thankfully, I don't know, I haven't heard anything yet. But that's something, again, that we just need to be aware of. And hopefully hospital groups are really thinking about this carefully. Good point, though. Really, really good point. Okay, let's move on to our next article in around the AI block that I wanted to cover. Speaking of which, actions to defend against rogue AI. Let's go to screenshot C. So OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, and 100 other companies call for action to defend against rogue AI. They've signed an open letter, and we remember Microsoft and Google have signed an open letter urging both the private and public sectors to work together to defend themselves from AI-related cyber threats. Cyber firms like CrowdStrike, Okta, and Fortinet also did this as well. It was bolstered by the Hugging Face incident, which is kind of one of the reasons why they want to sign something like this. The letter further suggested the mobilization of a collective response, one in which new partnerships are formed to raise security standards and find new solutions to emerging cyber threats. Okay, that's all that's said over here. I think it's a call for more governance standards, right? So I think ultimately that is a good thing. But you've seen that, we've seen a lot of these letters, right? I think every so often when it comes to AI safety, there's just a kind of big push for letters, whether it's like the Wall Street Journal, I don't know, the FT, but there's a call for letters for AI standards and ethical standards. But I guess to some degree, I'm just kind of tired of letters. I'm tired of letters, and I just want a little bit more substance and a little bit more action on really this, right? So great. Open call for more governance standards. Great. We should be a little bit more careful. Great moratorium on AI. Whatever the position might be. And perhaps it's a good start. But what's the next step? Right? Because I went to a forum to discuss the ethics of AI, and we talked about a moratorium between countries. And I talked to this professor, and I mentioned, oh yeah, one of my investors, old investors, had a call for Jan Tallinn actually called for a moratorium on AI. This is like 10 years ago, and nothing really amounted to it. And I think as much as we want these things, or we might call for things and trying to get some sort of consensus, at the end of the day, we still need some action. And I'm afraid that it might be a lot of talking. Not performative, because I do think, they're really trying to get some sort of consensus. But I just think there will be a lot of talking and not enough action, which perhaps it's an indictment of actually where the world is headed to some degree. I think there needs to be a little bit more action around that. But I just think it's AI is hitting us in reality now. It's not just a theoretical concept. It's really hitting us, right? Hugging Face, breaches, Australian man. I mean, as funny as it is, the AI kicked out the other gym bookers so that its owner, could have a gym membership. Yes, it's funny, right? Because it's frivolous, right? It's at the end of the day, it's frivolous. But it's a real world consequence. And the fact that this guy knew something about Claude, I think it was Claude, could kick out people that don't know anything about, the bogans in Australia that don't know about Claude and AI. And that's really kind of the power. And again, they're real world consequences. And it's really hitting the real world now. And I think that is why we need a little bit more than just kind of talk. We need real world action before it gets serious. That's my view. Okay, anybody have any comments around that? Speaking of which, our bot is working as well. Fantastic. Our night bot. Remember, subscribe to the automated. I don't know why that goes off like that. That's pretty good though. That's pretty cool. So that's working. Hune says, absolutely, the consequences are dire in that scenario. That's why the adoption is so slow. Actionable work that means consequences to issues can really only come from the government. I agree. I agree. It kind of needs the bite from the government. And Hune, a couple things I've talked about on the broadcast here is saying, kind of, I think the United Nations, bless you. I think the United Nations is actually a good place for that. Because it's international, it's a worldwide body. We've got the mechanisms for it. It's really whether it has the bite. I think that's kind of where I'm not disappointed, but I think the United Nations is not kind of where it used to be, just because to some degree, right? The United States has undermined it. But I think that's a natural fit, right? Where there's some sort of governance and that has some bite around it. Probably, the United Nations has to change as well first, right? So that it's less performative. There's a little bit more bite. There's a little bit more alignment with what is going on. Later. It's a little bit aligned with actually the real world, because there are calls for the United Nations to be a little bit more reflective actually of the real world, right? So China having more of a say just because it has bigger population, India has more of a say, so the global south actually having a little bit more representation on the Security Council. A whole host of other issues, but yes, that's one of the main calls. But I think having that kind of changing the body to be a little bit more less performative and more of a bite, and then maybe layering on this AI governance is probably kind of the right move. And to your point, Hunaid, I do think the organ is there, right? The organ to manage this is there. It's really whether it has the control. Okay. Let's move on and cover this view. All right, the next article here. Oh, thank you again, Hune, for coming on. It is absolutely fantastic. I'm loving the interaction. I'm loving it. A lot more fun. Here at 6 a.m., folks, it's lonely by myself and coffee, and sometimes my son stumbles in half asleep. But it's just nice to be able to interact with the internet, with you guys, and just have some banter back and forth, because it is lonely just broadcasting by myself. Even my producers are saying, try to get somebody on, right? And so there's some interaction. Otherwise, you're just talking about the news and just reading the news. It's kind of boring. I think it's boring. Okay, all right. So we talked about this. This is a Reuters article, Anthropic. We didn't talk about this, sorry. Thought about it. I read it. Anthropic unveils new framework allowing AI agents to operate physical devices. Yes, I read it. I saw it online as well. And people are commenting kind of generally positive things around this. So it's called a model hardware standard, a framework for AI agents to operate physical devices in scientific research and advanced manufacturing. In fact, I didn't hear this actually at the Physical AI Summit yesterday. Okay, cool. Which is kind of interesting. Why we didn't. It enables AI agents to operate lab and manufacture instruments such as microscopes and robotic arms in tandem and perform complex tasks ranging from routine drug discovery experiments to laser calibration on a quantum computer, Anthropic said. Renee, this might be interesting for you. By integrating agentic AI capabilities with lab and manufacturing business hardware, the Claude chatbot maker aims to help researchers and engineers execute autonomous round-the-clock workflows with minimal human intervention. Interesting. The company said it is sharing an early version of the MHS with partners to help build out safety evaluations before making it open source. Okay. Well, you're a doctor. Love to hear your reactions on the comment section before we kind of move into that. But I find it's not lost on me. It's MHS. It sounds very similar to NHS, which is the National Health Service in the United Kingdom. So I don't know if they're trying to make this parallel play to sound like a health service, natural health service anyway. Yeah, just some thoughts. I think kind of what I said before, right? It's not like I think it's a natural evolution of, of SaaS, AI, LMs in the physical. But it does broaden things to a certain degree and allows more people to interact with it, to benefit from it, to understand AI a little bit better. So I think it's a good thing. So it's a good thing. I think it's a natural thing for Anthropic to try to move into that. And you kind of see it, right? Everybody was going to anyway. OpenAI had hired Johnny Ive to build some sort of hardware device. Anthropic, I think we're always discussing kind of building their own chips. That's kind of more infrastructure rather than physical AI. But I think that was kind of always the direction anyway. And so I think Anthropic is now just trying to make a strong move. So I think probably we'll start seeing more of these AI companies trying to do that physical AI component. Definitely can kind of see that and broaden the appeal again of AI into just kind of from developers and that developer community and influencers. You see a lot of Claude influencers on YouTube now. And then actually kind of into hardware devices that people can buy and interact. Okay, let's move on to the comments here. Yeah, first help me do. Yeah, that seems the next logical step in AI's help for humanity. First help me think, then help me do. Yeah, Ethan's back in the show. Can't sleep. Yeah, I think so. I think, the Anthropic CEO did mention, like, one of the things he feels that why people don't like AI companies or why people don't like tech companies now is because it didn't fulfill, what was it, the quote unquote, didn't fulfill tech companies' promise, right, to help humanity, right? No, didn't really, and I don't kind of buy that because I think it's not just the fact that you help or you don't help. I think it's really their behavior and their ethical boundaries. But certainly, right, if AI companies do help in, cancer treatment, help in vaccine discovery, drug discovery, it will definitely swing the narrative back and swing the sentiment, positive sentiment, back into tech companies, if you will. So yeah, so ultimately I think it is a good thing. Hopefully, yeah, I think we'll see some very interesting things in the future with physical AI. Okay, let's move on. Thanks for the comments here. And really, again, I enjoy the comments. I'm looking at the stream health. We've got concurrent viewers. We've got one, and we've just got more views as well because of just this interaction. So definitely we welcome this. Thank you, Funade, for coming on. And it's just really fantastic. Helps the algorithm, helps me, helps my son get interested. What's going on? Okay, all right, let's move on to the next article here, and we can cover this. Google's AI mode, yes, can now track flight prices, help book hotels, and more. I actually use Google AI a lot. I'm a big fan. I'm a huge fan of Google AI. For some reason, sometimes I get the Google AI and sometimes I don't when I go into the browser. I just find Google AI a little bit, it's quite balanced. OpenAI is very startup-y, I think. It's very like SEO friendly, so I like that from a business perspective, strategic perspective. Yeah, just Google AI just gives me enough information, doesn't drone on. If I want to ask it a recipe, it just gives me an amount. You know, that's really where the use cases. I can't like it's so good. You basically say you've got this recipe, you want to tweak it to fit your personal, pan, right? This size, right? So I've got this recipe, but it says it's going to be for an 8x8 pan, but I've got a 3x3 pan. How do you adjust the flour, right? I was baking focaccia bread, and it's perfect. That's really where it shines. So for domestic chores, it's really good. It's really good. So now Google is adding new ways for users to plan and book trips through AI mode, and announced on Thursday. And you can track flight prices, book hotels, and see the cost of flights and hotels in points or miles. It's trying to position AI mode as an AI travel agent of sorts, as it's moving beyond simply helping users find information to actually handling parts of the trip planning process and booking process itself. Okay, it can now describe where you want to fly, best options available for more than 300 airlines and travel sites. And you can also track, right? You can track these flight prices for me if the prices drop, and then get an email. Hotels seem like you can do it as well. Upcoming trip and the hotel preferences. Okay, and it's rolling out the US in English, and it will be available in the coming weeks with offerings from Booking.com, Choice Hotels International, Expedia, Hilton, Trip.com, Hotels.com, quite a few, IHG Hotels. Okay, so Marriott, Priceline, blah, 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 blah. And then you can also kind of add miles as well. You can display the cost in points or miles, and I want to travel from Atlanta to Miami using my AA miles, and then just kind of go from there. Oh, okay. How many of you actually use like AI for travel, or software? I used to quite a bit. In fact, I was actually talking to somebody. I've got an upcoming trip to Korea. I used to do Airbnb a lot, but I actually don't do anymore. I find the price of Airbnb has increased, and so I use hotels a lot more now because I think it's a pretty vanilla experience with hotels. With Airbnb, you have to worry about like taking the trash away, cleaning the kitchen, and when to come in, and then sometimes when you go in, it's a residential, right? So it's like the lock is hard to find, the keys are hard to find, and that's the last thing I want to deal with when traveling, right? I want to go in from the airport, check in, go to the hotel, take a shower, go to bed, or something like that, right? Just execute and not worry about how to get things place for place. And yeah, I find hotels a lot more effective these days. Okay. I find hotels a lot more effective these days, and I do that. So that's just Airbnb and hotels. So therefore, the point I was trying to make was I actually use software and AI less these days to book. I've tried kind of travel agencies. I actually find sometimes travel agencies a little bit better because there's just more interaction. When was I forgot which itinerary I was kind of thinking about. I just went back and forth, a couple of times. Do we go one way around the world? Do we go the other way? Would it be cheaper to go this way? So I prefer that as a way. So that's kind of why I didn't like the booking platforms, because I needed a little bit more interaction before booking. And I remember I used to use Kayak a lot. We're just going from place to place to place. You could do that, but again, I needed a little bit more. So I guess with AI, it's going to replicate the travel agency experience a lot more for me, for people like me, where I need a little bit more interaction, I need a little bit more planning, I need a little bit more optimization before I book. And I definitely think this is going to help people like me. For example, like my travel complex. I'm here in Asia. When I go back to the US, there's a little bit more complexity involved. You know, it's usually 4 or 5 different stops, right? So I go to one stop, then I go to another one. But when I go there, let's say I go to a new city, I'm not quite sure, you know, what location I should be. I've got a couple meetings that are here and there. How do I align which hotels that are optimal for all my meetings? So it's a little bit more complex and a little bit more involved when I travel. So I find that travel agent experience a little bit more. So I do think I would dig this now with Google AI mode in travel. Yeah, love to kind of hear what your thoughts are with Google AI. Let's go in the comments here. I use Google AI as a first start. I use a combination of Google AI and Chat GPT for travel info. I'm still drinking Airbnb Kool-Aid. Yeah, Airbnb Kool-Aid was pretty addicting. It was pretty addicting until I had to clean my own trash. I was like, then I was just like, I don't know. It's just when I'm traveling for business, right? I don't want to worry about it. I just want to go do my stuff. And Airbnb, I think it's great for like vacations. It's great for families, right? Because you can book a big place. You've got a kitchen. You can make some food, and that's absolutely fantastic. But for like hotel travel, business travel, I just want to get in and get out, and then don't worry about making my bed. I feel like responsibility, in fact. I think that's the thing. Maybe it's my own guilt. I feel responsibility like it's my own flat. So I do make my own bed. I do cook and clean. I do try to clean, put out the trash. I try to take care of it in my home. So I think it's probably the obligation that I'm reacting against. I like hotels better because it just kind of feels like I have no obligation, right? I can just kind of do my own thing, mess it up, and just kind of go and leave, right? And go to the airport. So probably it's my own thing, not anybody else's. Okay, love to hear more comments. If you're not on the live stream, what do you think about Google AI? But yes, thank you actually, Hune, before I finish that thought. Interesting you use a combination of Google AI and ChatGPT for travel info. I'd love to kind of hear what you use Google AI for travel, and what do you use ChatGPT for? Like, is it really kind of seeing the best deal? Is it a comparison type of thing, or certain things better for one or the other?
Before you end the live stream.
Oh no, I'm still going on, buddy.
No, but when you end it,
Yes.
say thank you to Becca.
Okay, I will. Thank you. It's very kind of you. Okay, let's move on to the next article here. All right, what are we doing here? No, F. Okay, F. We're going to cover F here. And F, screenshot F, is Anthropic plans to publicly unveil IPO prospectus after Labor Day, the information reports. Potential listing in late September or early October. That's pretty early. That's actually pretty... That's really fast. Is allowing existing shareholders to sell shares as part of its IPO and longer lockup periods than the customer 180 days. Allowing secondary stock sales would distinguish Anthropic. The company has separately considered requiring rank and file employees to sell shares through preset 10.5B1 trading plans rather than typical post earnings. Okay. Wow. I mean, my initial reaction is it's fast. It probably wants to raise capital, right, to compete. So it kind of makes sense. It probably, kind of the lockups for employees probably want to be a little bit longer. employees probably want to exit faster because, you know, they finally can get their payoff and actually make paper wealth into actual real wealth. But obviously the company doesn't want to do that and won't allow that, which is kind of interesting. That's always the dynamic. So you see, there's some of that's kind of expected, but I can kind of see where the company's trying to be a little bit more pushy. It's also funny that I think a week ago, it was reported Anthropic is now hiring, in their interview saying if Anthropic's share price is going to zero, would you still stick with the company or something like that? And I think that's a great interview question because it really kind of asks a potential employer, are you really vested in the company, right? Rather than, are you just here for the share price? If you're a good interviewer, you probably obviously say the former, not the latter. So I think good for potential, you know, Anthropic employees. If you are one, definitely drop a comment in the section. Do you like the plans right now? Do you like how they're being structured? And if you don't, why not? Kind of love to hear. Oh, great. Hopefully we can actually get some views on this. That would be great. You can be anonymous totally and drop your comments and let us know. And that'll be an interesting discussion, actually. Okay, let's go in the comment section to see if anybody has said anything. Who need to say bye? What I mean by travel information is more about helping me craft an itinerary. Oh, I think the question was really how to use ChatGPT versus kind of AI to craft for travel, and I think it's really about itinerary planning. Yeah, and I view Anthropic and OpenAI as companies that are too big to fail, and I would agree. I think that's the positioning of both companies now, are trying to be too big to fail. There are ramifications there as well. You know, the too big to fail moniker was, you know, really for big banks, right? That it cannot be afforded to fail and therefore was propped up by the government. I believe it was the financial crisis, the Lehman crisis, that kind of moniker and that name came up, too big to fail. I don't know who engineered it, whether it was the media, whether the banks, or and so because they were too big to fail, the government's kind of stepped in and intervened and bailed out a couple of these banks and institutions. And definitely, I think Anthropic and OpenAI are trying to, I don't know if they were trying to explicitly kind of move towards this direction. You know, look, they're no dummies. So I think they were in trying to position themselves as too big to fail. Because if they were, there's always going to be this government backstop. From a company level, I do think that's a smart move. From a consumer perspective, from you and I don't think that's very good because, you know, we still have, you know, PTSD from too big to fail, right? Too big to fail means they got saved, but, you know, individual Joe did not. And so that doesn't help the industry as a whole because, wow, geez, okay, they're too big to fail. They're always going to get a bailout, Anthropic and OpenAI. And therefore, it doesn't help the narrative, which is these AI companies, they're not for our benefit. These CEOs are getting richer, and now the government will always bail them out. So they're now grouped into this kind of big finance firms, big tech firms. That's not a good thing, ultimately, either. I generally view I generally view, you know, I generally view these things as I actually think that pure capitalism should allow them not to be bailed out. And generally, I do think that they should not be bailed out. Is my personal view. So it's all, you know, if you're going to go capitalism as a system, then let that happen, right? Those are natural market forces, and you should let them fail if they should. Anyway, we're going into tangent here. Renee's comment before I move on. Comments that the IPOs will go out and people buy. It will probably sink a little bit, but given that the pace of AI will rise, it will rise very well, like Facebook. Yeah, over the long term, I think it's an interesting one. Actually, my personal opinion on the kind of stock performance, if it IPOs and it will benefit, I would say this, it'll benefit being the first one, for sure. But whether it'll be kind of a long-term company, I don't know. Again, there are calls right now, there are definitely kind of conversations of AI being a bubble, and it is kind of a bubble. And even in the dot-com boom, the first companies that went on and IPO'd didn't fare the best. I'm thinking MySpace, you know, who need to use it, Facebook, but MySpace, we're old enough to remember MySpace. Came before that and didn't fare so well. So I do think there's still kind of opportunity and space for things to shake up. So being first isn't necessarily an advantage. It may be a temporary advantage, but over the long term, it's not necessarily so. I guess my point is, it's still very, very early. We're still extremely early. Okay, let's move on to the last article around the AI block. Thank you again for all the comments here. This has been fun today. Really fun. Really, really fun. And as my son pointed out, thank you, Hunaid, for accompanying me on the live stream, on the chat. It's been fun. It's been really great and helpful, not only to me. Again, my producers have said I need to interact a little bit more, not just read. And I've just found the way to do that. And the way to do that is just to invite more people on the live stream and comment, because it just makes it more fun. It makes it more lively. And I'm a little bit more interactive. I don't like to read. And it makes it a little bit more interactive when I have some comments and some banter. You know, you just can't banter by yourself. It's just not natural. It's just not how things are done. Okay, let's move on to our last article around the AI block. AI can detect today is all about medical and physical AI and medical. AI can detect, in Guardian article, AI can detect heart disease in women using mammograms, study suggests. Experts say findings mean breast screenings for cancer could also flag cardiovascular problems in women. Doctors have discovered a way to use routine mammograms that screen for breast cancer, spot heart disease, the world's leading and frequently underdiagnosed cause of death in women. Using AI, successfully identify a woman with coronary heart disease, high blood pressure, who has suffered a stroke. Cool. The challenge now is to establish accuracy and reliability to move from experimentation to clinical implementation. Very cool. Very, very cool. I'm going to pause here and let maybe Hunaid comment interested in read the article. Yep, Hunaid said that he needs to read an article about mammograms. Definitely, Hunaid, it's in the email. Thanks for reminding everybody. It's in the email. Read about mammograms and how that does it. But from a top of level perspective, I think it makes a lot of sense. But again, I love to kind of, you're the doctor. I think it makes a little more sense that you comment before we get into that. So why don't we move on to the next section while I wait for your comments, and we'll go from there. All right, we are now in the tutorials section here. All right, let's go into tutorials here. And what do we have? We have few tutorials, AI tutorials. We have screenshot H here. How to create and sell your first ebook online in 72 hours using AI. And then we have another one, how to sell digital products. We've got two videos, how to sell digital products using Claude, Cowork, and Design as videos. Again, we don't get any affiliate. No one kind of asks us to do kind of these videos or share these videos. We just think it'll be useful. Hello, Ethan. And yeah, so definitely check them out. Let us know what you think. I've created an ebook using AI. It took me a little bit more than 72 hours using AI. You want to join me on the live stream? Okay, why don't you join me on the live stream?
Hey.
Hello. It's taken me longer to create. So one of the books, I've written 3 books. One book is iLeader, which is I went down the kind of traditional way. So I wrote the draft. I had an editor. I hired an editor. I hired a graphic designer. Great guys. If you need them, definitely happy to recommend them. And so the design and cover was done very, very well. The editor was fantastic. The experience was absolutely lovely, and it was really intimate. It really felt like, the editor had a really nice balance. Trying to get into my brain and really trying to kind of sense and push me to write something more substantive or a little bit more, whatever it may be, right? At whatever point in the book. And then, but was doing it in a very positive way, right? Not saying this is terrible, this is, rubbish, but, it was coaching, right? Like, how do you think about this? How should you think about this? How I think you're trying to mean this, how you would better kind of explain this or discuss this. So I think that was really, really valuable. My second book was entirely done by AI, so it was AI prompting in 2025. And let me just focus on that a little bit. It took me more than 72 hours to do. And I think what I like to share about AI writing and book writing in AI is, one, the software tools that I used at that time didn't allow you to write that much. And so it would just be a chapter at a time. So that took time to just kind of go chapter after chapter. The other thing is that I'm a stickler for like concepts, whether the concept aligns themselves. That's not, I think, the hardest part about writing is that you have to make this alignment between top and bottom, right? The first chapter and the last chapter, and it has to link up somehow. And that's something that AI doesn't do very well with book writing. And I think generally it just didn't recognize that I was trying to write a book. Or sorry, it did, but it just didn't. Anything that you change, and what I mean by that is like anything that you change in the last chapter, let's say you kill off a character, should have some say on how it changes the first chapter, right? And how you introduce that character. And it doesn't do that very well, right? It doesn't recognize that it needs to do that well. And so I think that's the hardest part about writing a book. If you write something like simple, right? Recipes, no ramifications between the first chapter, last chapter, middle chapter, character development, doesn't matter. But if you're writing something, I think, worthy, if you're writing fiction where there are ramifications and consequences, no. I know. But writing consequences of how the books should, or the characters and the theme should interact with one another, that's where AI doesn't do a very good job. You can write the graphic design is great. That's easy to do, but it's really writing. And that's why I think writing is still the purview of humans, and I want to see that. And as much as I support AI and think AI is powerful, writing is still a human endeavor, and hopefully it will be in the long term as well. Okay, let's take a pause here. I'd like to comment after I have educated myself. Humanoid reacted on the Guardian article about mammograms. Yeah, that'd be great. Welcome you on the next live stream and have a comment after you've seen the mammogram and the ramifications of using AI in mammograms and what you think. It generally sounds positive, but we might be missing a few things. And I think your expertise would be valuable here. Okay, let's move on to the next section. All right, we are trending tools here. We have 3 tools for you. Is it 3 tools for you today? Yes, we've got 3 tools. Again, these tools, we don't get any affiliate links. There's no commission on here. We just recommend it because we think it is valuable. So for the content creators and media producers, Gemini 3.5 Transcribe is a speech-to-text model that detects over 85 languages, tags distinct speakers, adapts to industry-specific vocabulary. I think we talked about this yesterday or the day before. It provides precise word-level timestamps. It converts noisy, raw recordings in clean text while automatically filtering out filler words. For the storytellers and anime creators, Makeverse turns creative ideas into full anime episodes. It's actually pretty interesting here. Manga chapters and comic strips through simple storyboard prompts. Its generation engine maintains strict character, costume, and visual style consistency across every frame and panel. It allows aspiring animators and writers to publish illustrative stories without needing custom drawing skills. Actually, this is pretty cool. I would take that for a spin. And for the educators and business presenters, Slides Pilot converts raw PDFs, Word documents, and web links in a structure ready to present PowerPoint slide decks. It's a bit noisy. It extracts key arguments to generate clean visual layouts complete with professional templates and auto-written speaker notes. It provides an easy way to turn long-form research papers or reports into pitch-ready presentations in seconds. Very cool. I'm just going to back up over here. Ethan loves his Rubik's Cube. It's just a bit noisy, I think. Yes, I think he's just got a 2x2 Rubik's Cube, which was actually pretty cool.
Show that to the camera.
You want to show it?
I already did.
Oh, you already did? Okay.
I'll show my feet.
Yes. Show the 3x3. Yeah, so the storytellers and anime creators, I think definitely the Makerverse one sounds pretty cool. Slides Pilot, no. No, as I said, the Makerverse is pretty cool. Yeah, that's here. Makerverse is pretty cool. Slides Pilot, I'm not a big fan of using slides in AI. It just doesn't work for me. Yeah, I think just the visuals, I think the story, I think it's just easier to just kind of do everything by yourself. But that's also because I'm a kind of stickler for PowerPoints. I think, and slides, I think where AI is really good is generating that structure of what you want to say, right? So the most effective way, I think, with using slides in AI is basically saying what's a kind of painting I want to paint, what's a story I want to talk about, and then what's the narrative, and then give me the title for every slide, right? So give me a slide title for, let's say, you need 10 slides, 15 slides, 20 slides, whatever it may be, but I want a slide title. And you can kind of see that progression of that story, of the overall story you want to make, and then each slide. And from there, you can either dig into each slide by yourself, or you can kind of ask AI and interact with AI to get to a little bit more granularity in each slide. But I think that's the best way to work with AI and slides from a high level. Okay, let's move on. Let's take a look at the comments here. Huanade said, PowerPoint generation for ChatGPT is subpar. The best so far I found is Claude. That'd be great. Yeah, PowerPoint generation for ChatGPT is subpar. Yeah, I haven't actually used it. I used it, I think, in the beginning, but I haven't really used it in the best. What do you like about actually Claude and PowerPoint? Like, does it just spit out a PowerPoint presentation, or yeah, does it just spit out like a PowerPoint presentation? I'd love to hear.
Papa.
Not yet. Well, of course there will be.
There's like a glowing dot.
Yeah, of course it will be. That's
Close to
okay.
my arm.
Oh, don't know.
What's that?
Don't know yet. Okay.
It's not actually even
All right.
yet.
Let's move on to the next section while we wait. All right, we are at the workout of the day section here. Let's move on to our last section, craft the best sponsor outreach email. Again, these prompts, we offer it out. No affiliate links, no payment, no nothing. Securing premium brand deals is about sending mass cold emails about demonstrating media ROI and audience alignment. Brand managers get bombarded with hundreds of generic pitch decks every week, most of which land straight in the spam folder. Outreach email needs to strike a balance between personalized admiration, hard demographic data, and low friction calls to action. So here's a prompt to try. Act as a world-class brand partnership manager and direct response copywriter. Talk about your show, talk about what you want, your niche, your audience size, target sponsor, your target decision maker. You put these in the prompt and ask for an email, and the outcomes are your subject lines, your script, and time, and then draft sequence, your follow-up sequence. Follow up 1, 72 hours later, what you write, 7 days later, what you write as well. Cool. Wow. I think, with these, right, I think with sales, I think it's not that initial email that's important. I do think it's the follow-up stuff. When you do it, when you follow up, what you write in the next email, what you want to follow up with, right? So do you want your first offer to come up in the first email? Do you want it to be in the second email, third email, whatever it may be? So I think that's a pretty good prompt because it thinks about that sequence. And like I said, going back to the writing section, writing, I think, is really about that. It's about how to link up different chapters and how to link up in the sequence, how to link up the different concepts in different chapters. With email like that, you can definitely kind of see it. First one, I'll say this. Second one, I'll say this. Third one, I'll say this. They're all slightly different in a different way, but that's just a little bit more human. In a book, you do that as well because you have got one character that you have to, kill off, and third chapter, first chapter evolves like this. There's some sort of evolution. And that's just a very human way to do things. And AI can still do that for email, but I think for books, it's kind of missing that trick, if you will. Okay. Okay. All right. Hune made a comment about the PowerPoint generation on cloud is accurate and meaningful and interactive and editable. I do remember I used Manus for slides as well, and that was pretty good. It was editable.
Edible?
And then editable, not edible.
Oh, I thought you said edible.
I know.
Like eatable.
You can't eat slides. That was an interesting comment. Thank you for that. That was an interesting comment. No, slides are not edible. You should not eat your slides.
I thought you said edible.
Please don't eat your slides.
But you said edible.
Editable, yes, you are right. But you're right. I think I still find, for me, Renee, I think the slides are not meaningful in the sense, like, I think the graphics aren't. So generally, I just don't like that. Okay, but thank you for the comment. Okay, let's move on to our final scene.
Edible.
Okay, all right. We are finally here. It's the end of the broadcast. Mr. Nuyoki. Oh, all my high school friends are showing up. What's on your finger? What's on your finger?
Huh?
What is on your finger?
I don't know. There's just this random glowing thing.
That's his bling. Oh, all my high school friends are showing. This is absolutely fantastic.
Is it bling for from Brawl Stars?
No,
That's money in Brawl Stars.
that's a bling.
Bling is money from Brawl Stars.
Oh, it's fantastic to see everybody. The old band is back together. Oh, that's fantastic. It's great to see.
Yeah.
So we've got 2 viewers right now
Huh? We do?
on the live
Ooh.
stream, or 2 concurrent viewers, and yeah, and they both commented, but they're both from my high school, which is absolutely
Don't
fantastic.
pull his finger.
He's telling you not to pull my finger, or maybe I shouldn't be pulling your finger.
There's,
Oh, that's
look. There's this like random thing there.
Yeah.
On my finger.
yeah, that's too funny. Oh, great to see you, Shaman. Sorochi. No, it's on a green screen. This is not a green screen. This is live from Shenzhen. It's a window. Yeah, it's a window.
Because it's a window.
Straight from Shenzhen. Straight from Shenzhen.
It's not green screen.
Are you a green screen?
No.
Are you an AI?
No.
Are you sure? Let me point you.
Ow.
Okay. Right. Oh, absolutely fantastic to see everybody here. This was
Ooh, chat rate too.
yeah, this was a fantastic live stream. Really, really, really enjoyed it. I'm gonna end now. Otherwise, this could last on forever. But it's great to see some friends, subscribers. I think this the first time actually some of you, I think Soroji, Roach, and Hunaid have not seen you or met you. So it's also good to meet and see Ethan. And
Who's Orochi?
he's also my high school classmate.
Also the Hun guy?
Yeah.
Oh,
So yeah, so we're gonna end this live stream again. It's gonna be
cool.
a long time. We're gonna be back here on Monday. I think you're Monday. My Tuesday 6 a.m. So you're
Today I'm
in
going
the
to
East
the
Coast
polo
5
stables.
p.m., 4 p.m. wherever you may be. Hopefully have a
Oh,
great
what's up, little bro? Hi.
have a great rest of the weekend. Thank you very much for a wonderful broadcast today. I really, really enjoyed it. Thank you. This is absolutely fantastic. I really very much enjoyed myself. And I think Ethan also enjoyed himself.
I'm gonna go to the polo stables today and have a party.
Yeah.
Wait,
So
wait, before you go, can I play a song?
no,
Please?
we're gonna figure it out later.
I wanna play a song really quick.
No, we gotta go.
Aw,
All right,
play Macarena.
say bye-bye everybody on the live stream.
Bye bye.
See you next week.
Beep, boop, stop spin.